All right, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, please ensure that you're on the correct meeting on eScribe and make sure that you indicate when you want to speak. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Sustainable Infrastructure and Development Committee meeting of May 5th, 2026. Now I'll call on Tim Brubaker, to the Regional Clerk, to call the roll.
Thank you. Regional Chair Redmond.
Present.
Vice Chair Craig.
Present.
Councillor Erb.
Present.
Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Councillor Dowling.
Present.
Councillor Harris.
Present.
Councillor Hunick. We have regrets from Councillor James. Councillor Liggett.
Present.
We have regrets from Councillor McCabe. Councillor Nowak. Councillor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councillor Salonen.
Present.
Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Verbanovich. And Councillor Wolf. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I would like to acknowledge the land on which we gather today. It's a traditional territory, the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe and the Chinantwa. I'm trying hard, folks, okay? We recognize the enduring presence of the Indigenous peoples on this land, and we honor their historic and ongoing contributions to our community. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest from any members of council? All right, seeing none. So I'm pleased now to take a moment to recognize our regional staff for receiving the 100 Best Fleets in the Americas award by NAFA. And I'd like our staff to come out now instead of at the end so we can all see who they are as I read this and appreciate the efforts that they've made. No, they want to come out. Yeah, no, that's all right, yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. NAFA recognizes the top 100 performing public and commercial fleet operations, highlighting innovation, efficiency, and leadership. The region's facility and fleet management was recognized as one of the only 4 fleets in Canada for peak performing public fleet operation. The program identifies and encourages the ever-increasing levels of performance, improvement, and innovation with the fleet industry. The 100 Best Fleets in the Americas Award highlights the innovation and leadership of public and corporate fleets that are shaping the future of fleet management and steering the industry into a bright future. On behalf of Regional Council, I congratulated the dedicated regional staff who've worked diligently to maintain our fleet. And gentlemen, very proud of you and what you've done today. Thank you very much, folks. Okay. Is there a picture? Okay, folks, we're going to move on. We're moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any requests to remove any items? Councillor Rodriguez?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's 7.1.2.
7.1.2, okay. Okay, we'll do the consent agenda except for 7.1.2. Any questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to call the question then. Oh, we need a mover and seconder. God, I'm falling behind. Councillor Wolf, Councillor Gowing, okay. Call the question. I kind of like the old days. You just put your hands up, we knew right away. Anyways, all right. Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And thanks to staff for a really great update on the Kitchener Central Transit Hub. And I think it takes some steps to start responding to the motion from last year with respect to how we engage the community in this important project. And so I'm hoping staff, and I think there was, there's going to be upcoming construction utility works in the months and weeks ahead. And I'm just wondering if staff could maybe speak to how we can appreciate the idea that the Engage will be the central point of contact, which I think is really great. I think the reality is there's a lot of people that don't know about that page and how we can connect with immediately nearby residents, whether by mail or with signage on the property for people walking by where they can learn about what's happening at the site. I mean, I think the highway sign there is 13 years old or more. And so what can we do to allow people to have those resources? This is a huge project, and every year there's more and more people living nearby the area that we're talking about from a construction perspective. And so just wondering if staff could maybe speak to that, as well as maybe what's underway with respect to a concurrent motion from the ward councillor at the City of Kitchener with respect to a community meeting with Metrolinx at the appropriate time.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Rodriguez, for the question. We're excited to see the first little bits of construction happening nearby. So as you mentioned, there's some preliminary utility work that's going to start next week for a couple of weeks on Duke Street. That's a good example of how we're trying to get ahead of a lot of pretty complex series of contracts and phases of construction there with Metrolinx. There we were able to receive the notice in advance by Metrolinx and push it through our Engage website. So, without making a pun, we're trying to make Engage the communications hub for this major project, so everybody can go there, and all the people who have signed up to follow this project will have the information in a timely way. As the report mentions, I think that the big pieces of construction, so there will be the demolition of the Rumpelfeld building, so that's another big piece and really visible for community in 2026. We know that Metrolinx is in tender right now, so that the contractor award will come in the fall, so I think that's really the time, when they have their contractor on board for the bulk of the construction, that's when we can move to the next phase of communication, because we'll have just much more certainty on the timelines for the construction. So be able to really give some practical answers to the neighborhood and to councils and elected officials at that time. In the meantime, I know the team has been looking at upgrading the sign on the property, and we can take it back to see how. Yeah, maybe we can put a QR code to link to the Engage page, so people are incentivized to sign up and they know where to find it very easily, as opposed to have to go through the site and find the right page to do that. So I'd say it's work in progress, and I think as we move in towards more significant parts of construction on the site, we'll be able to ramp up the communications accordingly, following some of the the recommendations that you brought forward in the motion and last fall, and working with the City of Kitchener as well.
Thanks for that. And Chair, if I may just, with respect to the timelines, I mean, I think we're still, several years out from a new GO train station, and I think it's an understatement to say that the current station's at its, at its gills in terms of, peak, sort of those 10 minutes every time a train arrives. Could you maybe just speak to, for the benefit of the community, some of the things that we're looking at to make this current station work as well as possible for the next 4 or 5 years?
Thank you, through you, Chair. So as you know, Regional Council put a bit of money on the table a couple of years ago already to improve the situation, creating the ramp that leads from the platforms on the southwest side to the corner of Weber and Victoria, which did not exist before that, as well as adding the traffic signal at the intersection of Aaron Street and Victoria. We know that when a train comes in, that's a lot of people at the same time. The pickup and drop-off function gets saturated pretty quickly. So I know the transportation team is looking at signal timing to try to see how we can better optimize that and figure out a way of adjusting it to the actual train schedule. So that's a piece that we're looking into right now, and so hopefully that will help with that. I know there's some work with the City of Kitchener more broadly on I would say more daily parking options to be able to connect to existing city parking lots in the vicinity. So that's also another piece of work that we're doing right now, and we should be able to bring it back, and hopefully that will provide additional parking supply for the additional service that has been ramping up in the last 6 months on the line.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the regular agenda. Moving on to the first item for regular business, we have a report regarding the expropriation of lands for improvements to Duke Street in Kitchener as part of the Victoria Street realignment project. I'm going to call upon Fiona now, our regional solicitor, director of legal services, to provide an introduction.
Thank you very much, and through you, Chair. This report seeks approval to commence the expropriation process for the subject lands, being a road widening, part of the lands at 247 Duke Street West. The lands are required for reconstruction of Victoria Street North to better accommodate the KCTH. Utility relocations are planned for 2026, along with the tender of the works and construction to begin in spring of 2027. Expropriation is necessary in order to meet this timeline. This application impacts the one property with the fee simple partial taking along the frontage. Region staff have been in contact with the affected owner about the proposed acquisition and to advise of this report coming to council today. It remains our intent to reach a negotiated settlement as much as possible with the owner, and if so, the expropriation will be discontinued. If we are unable to achieve that prior to the need for the property, the expropriation will continue, and we will pursue negotiations with the owner following. And if there are any questions,
Okay,
I'm
any
happy to address
questions,
them.
members of council? No? So we need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. All right. Councillor Erb, and a seconder, please. Councillor Gowing. I'm going to call the question. On your rescribe. That's carried, folks. Okay, we're on. I did see it. Where's that? Right here. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right, moving on to the next item for regular business. We have a report regarding the Iron Needles Boulevard resurfacing. I'm going to call upon our Commissioner of Transportation Services for an introduction.
Thank you, Chair. So through this report that's brought to committee today, we're recommending adding the resurfacing of Ira Needles Boulevard to the 2026 capital budget so we can do this work this year. We'll talk about asset management a little bit further later today, but this is about keeping this important regional corridor safe, reliable, and in a state of good repair for all the residents and businesses and goods movement that rely on it every day. Approving this work today will also extend its service life by 5 to 10 years and reduce the risk of more costly repairs later, supporting our general asset management strategy. The condition of Ira Needles Boulevard has worsened faster than expected, especially along the seam between the original lanes and the widened sections of the road. Recent winter freeze-thaw cycles have made the surface deteriorate more quickly and highlighted the need for a more durable solution. On many roads, we do localized patching. Here, staff reviewed whether we could continue to address this issue with patching, but the deterioration along the seam is making it challenging to fix through just basic spot repairs. So the recommended approach is to remove and replace just the top layer of asphalt on Ira Needles between Yellow Birch Drive and West Hill Drive. The estimated cost of the resurfacing is about $4.5 million, funded through the Transportation Capital Reserve, subject to council approval to add it to the 2026 capital budget. To be clear, this would be using, so we know that every year a number of renewal projects that are on the capital budget are deferred or they can't go through the construction season. Often it's because of the interlinkage with property requirements. And so there's always a bit of space at the end of the year. I mean, you saw it in the end of year results for last year in that capital budget. So we would not be depleting the reserve by doing this. It's just anticipating that some projects will be delayed, and we're trying to fill this with a project that we can do without any design and that we can advance very quickly. Initially, full rehab of the original lanes had been planned for the 2030s, but now we're recommending this early resurfacing work to stabilize the roadway and prevent further deterioration. And this is a response both to, our understanding of the road condition, but also a number of concerns from residents about road conditions that have increased in the past winter and prompt further inspections and review of the road structure. If approved, staff will develop a construction and communications plan to keep residents, businesses, and stakeholders informed about the timing, traffic impacts, and potential next steps. Thank you.
All right, any questions? All right, okay. Councillor Solomon, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner, for going over that. I have a question of clarification that you just said it wouldn't be depleting the reserve, but in the report, one of my initial concerns on reading it was it says the reserve can accommodate this additional funding request in the current year. However, the 10-year forecast will need to be reprofiled through the next budget process to maintain a positive reserve balance. So that's contradictory, and I had a question about that main line. I don't know off the top of my head, as we have many capital projects at the region, and it was not easy to go back and find the capital projects that this would potentially be putting off. So curious if you could speak to that.
Through Chair, so the mechanism, and thank you for the question. The mechanism here is, so at the end of the second quarter, we'll come back to council with an updated view of the financials. At that time, we will have we'll have gone past the tendering period that we go through every year. So we'll actually know which projects are for this year are under budget, which ones are beyond and need to be reviewed, and which ones, and we'll have a better idea even on the property side and the third-party utility side of which projects will actually proceed in the 2026 construction season and which ones will not. So at that time, we'll be able to tell you specifically which projects will be pushed out, and we'll create that will not be able to be delivered in 2026, and will create the space for that $4.5 million new project. So that's kind of the process. It's really we know that statistically we will have a number of the projects that will either be below the estimate or that cannot be delivered in 2026, and because that happens every year. And so today I can't tell you which one specifically, but at the end of Q2 we'll be able to bring that back as part of the Q2 report.
May I have a follow-up, Chair? Thank you. I understand what you're saying, and I get that you're saying annually we don't always utilize the full budget for various different reasons. I get that. I guess I'm struggling on one, we don't know what that's going to be, and the whole reason of doing capital plans and projects is to give some level of predictability. But two, even if there are projects that for some reason we've approved and aren't going to happen or come in at a different budget range, this is still a new $4.5 million, so something is still going to be offset, as well as our whole 10-year capital plan is not fully funded out to the 10 years. So, I mean, a huge concern, frankly, when I first read this was, well, I know my community's been asking for Herbs Road to be resurfaced. It is a main thoroughfare for people who commute, and I'm sure Wellesley might have some similar views on that as well. It's a regional road. It's been on our capital plan, but it feels like it's hanging out in the ether of never coming, yet using the iron needles. And again, I can appreciate, I'm not saying the underground of the roadway is in better condition one over the other, but anecdotally from using and from residents' concerns, I'm really confused why this is jumping up from 2030s ahead of other projects that right now we don't have in front of us to compare what's going to be getting pushed off, because this is $4.5 million that will still have a trickle-down effect somewhere on something getting pushed off, and I'm really concerned it's a regional project in a rural area, but even if it's not, still concerned at not having the full picture of what we're being asked to potentially compromise on.
Through you, Chair, I think I appreciate that it's we cannot give you the full picture. We know that we're not able to spend all of the capital budget because of contingencies on each of the projects. I think that's where we're trying to move on that, as well as rural. So projects that do not require design and that can be done in year, we're trying to move them, more and more of them, into a shovel-ready state to be able to advance them should the financial capacity that's allowed to staff during, through the budget process be made available during in year. So it's a bit of a different approach that we're trying to take to be able to do more of these short-term resurfacings when they're needed. Iron Needles is a bit of a specific case because, as you mentioned, it was not. We were hoping that the structure would be able to hold us until the 2030s to be able to do a full rehabilitation. I think now this intermediate work, again, we're in council's hands on this, but this I would say preventive maintenance and repair program would add another 5 to 10 years to that. So we're actually going to save the overall business case will save us some dollars in the long run on the rehabilitation of Iron Needles. So that's why staff's recommendation is to bring this forward now. We do think we'll save more money over the next decade by doing this work now, as opposed to patching and doing the rehab in 2030.
I'll allow you to jump back in if you wish. Commissioner Steffler, please.
Yeah, I was just going to add on that this is an example of some in-year prioritization that staff are recommending based on the circumstances. We do look at this when we do our quarterly reporting too. You recall we talk about what are impacting operating, and then we also look at capital, what things are adjusted in capital. So I think usually this would be when this would surface, this type of example, but I think there's an urgency here and why it was brought forward in that manner. And then at every budget cycle, we are constantly reprioritizing, trying to work within the envelope we have, what's the most critical need, and those things are what are brought forward in the budget.
I guess I have some more questions, but I will just ask one right now. Is this standard and best practice for asset management. Because again, I don't disagree that reprioritizing makes sense. Things pop up, I understand that. But again, for me, it's the concern at the gap that this project wasn't even on the radar for multiple years. And I even appreciate getting things shovel ready. I'm not saying that that's a wrong tactic. In fact, I think that makes a lot of sense. For me, it's just, this isn't even one that this council was considering to have to deal with in our term. So I guess can you help me reconcile that? And is this really best practice to be pulling something from multiple years out versus, and again, I don't have the full business case in front of me. The report didn't even go into the business case of saving money over time.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan, okay. Councillor Gowing, please.
Thanks, Chair, through you. So have we looked at other options for resurfacing? I know that the traditional is we go in, we take it out, we haul it away, we put in new. But I know there's stuff out there that are like hot in place recycling, and I know they do it. They do it up in the, I think the last one was Highway 17 at Kenora. It's all recycled on the spot. I know that there's a huge cost savings with it, so I'm wondering if that's a potential that we can look at instead of paying off. I think the number in here was $4.5 million. Maybe it's something that we can look at to make this cheaper so that we don't have to bump other projects.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. I think we'll, you know, in a project that well scoped like this one, we'll always go with the lowest bidder. But yeah, happy to invite alternative repair techniques that can help. I know the team is talking to a number of providers on these things. Where you know, if we can cut the cost by half, we'll happily do that.
Yeah, just I want to keep that in mind because I know we don't want to bump projects that are on the books already and we don't want to lose track of it. So anywhere we can get it done properly with less cost is great. Thanks.
All right, Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So based upon what Councillor Gowing has said, are we requesting a deferral? And that's not my question to the staff, but.
Actually, yes. I think I want to, just so that we can explore other options. Trust me, I know Ira Needles. I take it every day, and I know it's a mess. It's a hot mess, to be honest with you. But I think that's something that we should look at. So yes, I would defer this to see if there's other options we can look at.
All right, Councillor Foxton, are you okay?
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Hunick.
No, I'm not. I was just based on that. Councillor, you're not a Councillor Steffler. Sorry, just demoted you. So when we get something like this, the first thing I'd like to see is what fund is coming out of, the remainder in that fund, and where it's going to. The problem being is we sat here for weeks and listened to how badly our reserves were. The report that Nicole presented was fabulous in showing us in black and white that we could really be in trouble. Now, of course, this is the season from hell. Roads are a mess this year as never before, and Trostler is one of the worst because it gets such heavy traffic constantly. So I understand what we've got to do, but we also have to watch and balance our reserves, because otherwise we will not only lose our triple rating, but we will lose a lot more than that in credibility. So we have to be able to manage those. So I would like to see in any report like this that comes forward, if we're taking it from reserve, what the main reserve balance will be, how it impacts. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Hunick, please.
Thank you, Chair. Craig is your name. Thank you. Commissioner Getsky, if we defer this project or put it off until the 2030s, as was the original plan, what is the risk to the vehicles on the road and the infrastructure underneath the road in the meanwhile?
Through you, Chair. So, I mean, the main risk is going to be a continuous increase in patching costs because we are subject to provincial minimal maintenance standards on the road. So there's intervention timelines that are required of us to be able to fix. So that will require just gradually every year until the 2030s to be able to put more money into patching it year over year. So that will be the impact. Again, there's minimal maintenance standards, so we can't go, no, we have to meet that performance standard. So that means it's more of a budget impact than while we wait for the rehab.
That's a cost that I don't want our taxpayers to afford. Commissioner Getsky, if there was a cheaper option from another recycling company or something like this, would you have showed it to us?
Through you, Chair, we would have shown it to you, but we only know what it costs until we actually go to tender. So we need to be able to have a competitive bid. And we've seen this in a number of recent instances. Prices are pretty good right now, so we're going to. I think the objective is to go to tender and then bring back the tender award. Again, tender award is subject to approval, so we're happy to bring back and bring some more details on the bids if council would allow us to go to tender.
Okay, so even if we don't defer it, we'll see the options provided.
We can bring that back. I think I don't remember what the thresholds are, but that's around 4 million. We can
Great.
We'll show you the detailed tenders. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Getsky. The deferral here, we could likely miss the construction season if that was to be deferred. I just want to pick up where you left off, and that was my first question. I guess this is the second is, there's a backstop here that, Commissioner Getsky was speaking to in terms of, going to tender and allowing council to review that tender like we did in the past on specific tenders and then make a final decision at that time. But at least you'll have the information and you'll know you've gone to the street to collect the bids, and we can, make our final decision based on the numbers we've received. So, I'm hopeful that council avoids a deferral and lets the process unfold, knowing that you've got a backstop for when they receive bids.
Okay, Chair Redmond.
Chair Craig, I would move the motion as it's written, and I would tell you that I think the backstop is exactly what Councillor Harris has talked about and Commissioner Getsky has outlined. I don't want to miss the construction season. I understand that this is a reshuffling of sort of our 10-year projected capital expenditures, but I do know that, and I'm sure each of us around this horseshoe gets constant emails from people talking about potholes and talking about the quality of our road. So I am assuming that this would not have come to us unless, as Councillor Gowing said, it's a hot mess. So because of that, I would suggest that we move forward at this point in time. So I'm willing to move the recommendation as written.
All right, I'll
And
get
my
a seconder in a moment. We have two more speakers. Actually, we now have three. Okay. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Does Regional Council have any beyond the provincial minimum standards requirements? Have we ever set out what we have as our standard requirements of conditions of roads? Some jurisdictions do. I'm just curious if we.
Through Chair, we do not have a specific independent formal minimal maintenance standard. So right now we rely on the provincial ones and try to do better. We have some on other issues like winter maintenance, for example. We know we've had this conversation about transit. So there we set the specific requirements that we have for potholes or repairs, for example. We do not have one.
Okay. And my other question, since this would, if it successfully passes today, it would have to come for ratification at council at the end of the month. Would staff be willing and able, and I'm fine if it needs to be an amendment, to bring back the business case, because it sounds like you've already done it. The work just hasn't been provided to council. If you could bring the business case, because I want to understand what the trade-off is for paying now versus long-term waiting on the problem. And then also, would you be able to provide, what was the other thing I was going to say? I got distracted when somebody was talking. I'll think about the other part that I want to brought back, but can't think of it at the moment. But is that possible for you to bring back the business case component at least? Oh, and the 10-year capital plan so that we can see the other projects that might get slated off. That was the other part.
Through you, Chair, so on the capital plan, I think it would be challenging to bring it by council because the objective is to do it at the end of Q2 with our financial report. That's the time at which we have all the bids in place, and I mean that's the quarterly report that we bring back to council.
I'm just talking about the capital plan that was in the budget, the 10-year
Oh, in the
capital,
budget?
so that we can see in one document and not have to go searching us or the public for it. I'm saying, yeah, the capital plan that we get with the budget, if that can be brought forward for this roads department in particular.
So through your chair, just to understand, so to share the capital program? Yep, I think, and there, I mean, I don't want to talk for Commissioner Steffler, but I think we're bringing back the final budget book shortly.
Yeah, and so if you'd like the excerpt, like the roads excerpt included in the report, yeah, we can certainly add that in.
Thank you. And are you fine with that as direction, or did you need that as a formal amendment to the motion?
I'm sorry, did you say that? I didn't hear you quite.
Sorry, Chair. I was just asking if they want that as a formal amendment to the motion, or if that can be taken as direction and brought back when this is seen by council.
We can do that.
Yeah, we can just append it to the report.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Vrbanovic.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Getsky, and staff for the report. I mean, Ira Needles is probably one of the busiest streets in the city of Kitchener and in the region, and so I get why we need to do the work. I guess my question is, and notwithstanding the discussion around the broader list and so on, have we actually looked at this in the context of potentially reprioritizing projects for 2026 as opposed to simply adding this in? I.e., are there some other projects in the region that could be adjusted? Or, and I guess, pending getting the information from the quotes, we may find that most of our quotes are coming in less, and in fact, it won't present a problem in the end. But, is there an option to look at reprioritizing some of the 2026 projects?
Through you, Chair, and thanks for the question. I think that's the intent. I think the issue is to be able to bring a tender forward, and again, with the backstop of approval of that tender, we need to do it now to be able to meet the construction season. And I would say the fulsome view of the results of tenders and what projects may be delayed because of property impacts, for example, or utility impacts, is something that we, today we're, I would say, halfway through. We get a more comprehensive view at the end of Q2 of 2026. So we're happy to bring that in detail with that Q2 report. That would be the right time to do this.
Right, but I will say, I mean, one of the things that I often get concerned with is how many of our projects seem to start late in the construction year, and then we get to the point of November, early December, the asphalt plants are closing, roads aren't done. We actually need to figure out a way of moving this back, and so that if there are decision points for council to be reviewing and making, it shouldn't be at the end of Q2, it should be maybe at the start of Q2. And we need to backtrack things, I think, in that manner in the future. I guess, what I'm hoping is when this information all comes back, we can look at it in the context of the overall list, the overall budget, and, just because we send something to tender, I mean, there has to be obviously a goodwill intent on our part to proceed, but that will depend on ultimately the money being available, and council can make that decision at that point. It may also cause some of our tender participants to actually sharpen their pencils a little bit as well, if they know there may be added work going into the overall process, as opposed to knowing that council said, sure, here's another $4.5 million, and and then that basically becomes the rough parameters of the quote going of the bidding process going forward. So any thoughts on us making those decisions once all of the tenders come in and you bring that report back as soon as possible? And if we need to have a special meeting, quite frankly, then that might be something that we need to think about doing.
Through your chair, so I think what we would be seeking is the authorization to go to tender. I think today I would say that the market is quite, at least for road construction, the market is quite competitive. So the capital budget is a public document. Companies know what the estimates in the budget are. Actually, that does not, unlike other types of construction which may be less competitive, this is the figures, for example, that we have in the capital budget are not usually used as like the target for the competition. So we have very, very competitive bidding on this. So I don't think that putting the number of $4.5 million out there is actually locking us into that number. It's quite competitive. We have a lot of bids. We've seen on recent, I think there was in today's consent agenda, there was a bid for a bridge. It went from, our estimate was right in the middle of all the bids that we received. There was one that was 30% below and one that was 40% above. So it's a really competitive market. So I think if we go to tender, we'll be able to bring back. And I know this report is underneath the $10 million threshold. So usually it's a CEO decision, but we're happy to bring it as a special report back to council so you can see the full results of the bids and see the range of bids that we'll get for that specific piece of work. If that would help.
Okay, I want to move this along.
Sorry.
We have two
Sorry,
more.
I'm not quite done yet, Mr. Chair.
Oh, through the chair then, thank you.
Thank you. So just on that, I'm happy to see that, move forward. And are you saying that staff can't seek a tender request without council approval of the project first?
Through your chair, I don't. Maybe I'll lean on Wayne to tell me if we can or can't. We definitely wouldn't, because that's not. We want to get to your earlier point. We want to go with the intention of achieving the results. So we wouldn't want to go to tender on something that's not in the capital budget and not in the 2026 project list of projects.
Yeah, I'll just add, everything has to be within an approved capital budget or an approved budget for us to issue any kind of procurement documents.
Okay, so just on that, I won't support a deferral. I do think it needs to move forward. I think the caveat of it coming back to council so that we can look at it in the context of the overall project list is critical, and so I will support that. I do think, and as a result of various projects over the last couple of years, I think at some point it's probably be wise for us to review these thresholds of what tenders come back to council and what doesn't, because I think council needs to have a little more oversight. Like 10 million is a lot of money, and I think we need to just be aware of these things as we look to tighten some of our budgets here at the region, and I would anticipate a future council will want that as well. Thank you.
All right, I have two more speakers. We have a motion ready to be put on the floor. So Councillor Shantz, please, and that'll be the last two, and then Councillor Gowing.
Thank you. I'm going to support the motion. I think, putting it off is potentially going to mean that nothing happens. And so, getting a road fixed is getting a road fixed. But I also hear and agree with my colleagues who are saying we need to have a better look at how we prioritize upcoming projects and perhaps have a list of shovel-ready, after we do our budget with our capital projects, a list of other shovel-ready projects that we would sort of defer to rather than jumping all over the place. And I share some of Councillor Salinen's concerns from the rural perspective too, that often our roads, we feel anyway, like they get put off and continually get put off. So I think that kind of prioritizing needs to happen as part of the budget process, and I hope that'll be part of the discussion either at the council meeting or at the end of Q2 when that other report comes.
Okay, Councillor Gowing.
Thanks, Chair. So based on the conversation that I have, I'm going to withdraw the deferral. I think we should move forward, but on the point of Councillor Vanovic, I think we do need to look at the procurement document and the approvals up to 10 million. When I first sought that information when I started. I thought that was a lot of money, considering I think it was 5.2 is 1% of our budget. I think that's something that we should look at, so I will withdraw the motion.
Okay. The clerk and I are conspiring here. All right, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. So through the chair, Councillor Salinan had asked for some additional information to come back for council with this report. Like Councillor Urbanovic raised earlier in the day, if the motion is just passed, it will be on the summary and there won't be anywhere to attach that additional information. So if the intention is that council would like to see that additional information on the public record as opposed to just an email, then it would be easiest if there was a report to attach it to. So my recommendation to council would be to just refer this report to council, and then that additional information from staff can be attached to the report in 2 weeks.
Okay, Chair Redmond, how do you want to proceed? You have talked about just moving the motion.
So if this is to move this motion or defer this motion to the next council meeting, and there would be a request for a report, so not a report, but a request outlining what the additional information is that council is seeking.
Okay, so you're referring it? You're moving
Well,
it?
I'm asking for clarification right now.
My anticipation would be that the report that is on the agenda right now would be listed on the council agenda with an additional appendix or two to address the information that had been requested, but that it would be the same report that is here right now.
That's fine.
Okay, are you moving the referral?
I will move the referral to the next council
I
meeting.
need a seconder. Sure. Councillor Hunick, okay, using e-scribe, folks. Okay. Okay, that's carried, folks. All right, moving on to the next item for regular business.
Sorry, Chair. The delegation has arrived. If you'd like to go back to the delegation.
All right, so our delegation has arrived, so I'm going to go back, okay? All right, here we are, here, I got it here. So I'm going to call on Praveen I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. My apologies. Could you pronounce your full name for us, please? Thank you very much, and I apologize for, anyways.
Test. Excellent.
Okay. Before you start, sir, 5 minutes, okay? And I want you to follow the direction of the chair. Go ahead.
Thank you, councilors, for having me. It's a real privilege to be here with you all. Can you hear me okay? I have a tendency to speak too close to the mic. I know our team was in touch with Chair Redmond and Councillor James, but it's a privilege to be here with all of you today. This one's particularly close to my own heart. I'm actually a proud University of Waterloo alum. I was a Don at Velocity 15 years ago. A bit of background, so while I was at Velocity, I actually had the privilege of joining Facebook's original international growth team 15 years ago, which moved me to Asia. I ended up leading their growth efforts in Asia, starting and scaling their internet connectivity initiatives out of the Bay Area, which moved me to California. In 2015, I met Elon at Tesla, ended up joining Tesla as their first head of growth globally when I was 25. One thing that stood out is through all of these legs of my career that started here in Waterloo, alongside me were other proud Waterloo alumni that played critical roles in scaling what are now some of the biggest technology companies in the world. And 2 years ago, myself and a few of my other former classmates actually moved home to Ontario because we believed that there was an opportunity to build technology that could have a real impact on our communities. And flicker's maybe not working. There we go. We believe very strongly that public transit infrastructure, our public transit systems around the world need to become the most convenient way for people to get around within and across our cities. This is for a number of different reasons. Traffic is getting is bad, it's gonna get worse. And even right now, taking public transit, I grew up taking the TTC, I took GRT when I was here. I've lived in various cities around the world taking public transit. Even if you're an able-bodied 20-year-old, a lot of the time, if it's in the middle of the winter, getting to the bus stop, taking the bus can be a significant barrier. But for many people who either have access issues or if you have a stroller or young children, it just ends up not being an option. And Ontario is actually home to some of the most robust public transit, conventional public transit infrastructure in the world. But still, there's a missing link in that first and last mile that is a significant barrier for getting people in and out of our existing robust transit infrastructure. So what we've built here is a solution that augments existing public transit infrastructure with first and last mile service. So what that means is you can press a button, or if you don't have a smartphone or a cell phone at all, call a phone number and get picked up at your door in one of our fully electric, wheelchair accessible buses, but you pay a standard bus fare. And we've built the system such that it isn't kind of a standalone, separate solution that runs alongside transit. We've built the system in a way where it's fully integrated with our existing transit infrastructure. So this means we have real-time feeds into existing local and regional transit, and we do full fare integration. So you're paying one single bus fare, you're getting picked up at your door in a fully accessible vehicle, and you're getting connected into our high-density transit lines. What we've been able to show in other deployments in the province is that we've been able to significantly increase the amount of folks who now have taken public transit as an option. You can see on the screen what we've been able to achieve in Bradford, West Gwillimbury. Within 2 months of launching the service, we doubled overall transit ridership compared to what the system was doing in the previous year, and significantly increased access levels to members of the community. We've also shown that not only are we driving more, have we been able to drive significantly more people into public transit overall, but we've also driven significantly more connections into our existing fixed route transit infrastructure. So we showed that we drove over a 5x increase into of transit connections into Bradford GO Station.
So I'm going to ask you to summarize, please.
Yeah, so we've built an Ontario, this slide or just overall? Overall, so we've built a solution here in Ontario that significantly enhances access levels to residents in the communities we serve and drives more ridership into our existing transit infrastructure. And we're proud to be building that here at home in Ontario.
Okay, thank you. I've got one, Councillor Hunick, please.
Thank you, Chair Craig. I have a couple of questions. So my first one is, can you speak to the economics of your model? I.e., if we have to pay you to do the first and last mile, then what's the profit sharing like in terms of transit revenue?
So our model is we pass through all fares. Our customer is the region or transit agency, and we pass through all the fare revenues. So we provide an end-to-end system that includes the capital infrastructure and the technology and full end-to-end deployment, and we've been able to show that we can achieve economics that scale pretty consistently with conventional service. So historically, on-demand transit systems have been very cost prohibitive to provide that level of access and door-to-door service. What we've been able to achieve is a cost that is actually comparable per ride to conventional service, which is why we're able to scale.
So you would take the bus fare instead of GRT?
No, we pass through all of the fare revenue. So we provide an infrastructure and operational solution, and we pass through all of the fare revenues to the region.
So I have another question, so I'm going to move on, but maybe you can provide more details to that via email, because I'm not sure that makes sense to me or others on council. I just wanted to ask, I think that we pride ourselves in encouraging active transportation in Waterloo region, so encouraging people to walk and or roll to bus stops, even using scooters, for example. So, but in the winter though, when we're struggling with snow removal at all of the bus stops and on all of the roads and all of the sidewalks, this seems like it might be a good option. And so I'm wondering if you would ever be open to a pilot specifically over the winter months.
We definitely be open to it, and that's some of the biggest unlocks we've seen in other municipalities in Ontario, where especially for older folks in the community, a lot of the time people end up being stuck at home through the winter months because getting to the bus stop through the snow or a lot of residential corridors without sidewalks just wasn't an option, and a significant number of people have been able to get back out into the community and participate even in the winter months, so we'd be very open to it.
I'm excited to hear that. So if you could follow up with myself, our council and the GRT team, that would be awesome.
Would love
Thanks.
that.
All right, Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Okay, I'm just trying to understand your model. So first of all, are you only within 1.5 miles or of this transit, or could you be 6 miles? Like if I live in Cambridge. If I wanted a ride to the Ion station in Kitchener, would that be something you would do?
Yeah, so we're fully integrated with existing conventional service. So what we're able to do is pick people up at their homes or at their work or wherever they are and transfer them into the high capacity line. So we're solving that first and last mile gap. If it's a shorter distance, then we'll drop them off exactly where they are, because I think conventional service just generally hasn't facilitated that, but we have real-time connections into the existing service.
Okay, and so if I was the customer, does the customer pay you or the customer pay Grand River Transit?
So the customer would pay GRT, so we integrate the existing fare terminals into the vehicles, so it's one consistent fare structure. So in Brampton, as an example, we integrate with Presto, so people are just paying a Presto fare. In Bradford, we integrated their existing Easy Pass and cash fare system, so we just inherit the existing regional fare system and pass through all of those revenues back to the region.
So the customer is paying, okay, if normally it would cost me $3 to ride the bus, if you're picking me up at my house, it's still costing me $3?
That's right. We take on the exact existing fare structure, and what we've been able to show is that on a cost per ride basis, we can match the existing cost structure of the conventional service, which is why we're able to solve this problem.
And the region, because of increased ridership, is how we would be paying for your service?
That's right. We have shown that we can drive significantly more ridership into the existing system, so we are an enabler for that and to give access to members of the community who might not have been able to get to conventional service. So we, in Bradford, actually, we reduced the cost per ride to the municipality by 50%, over 50% actually, because there was so many more people who've started taking transit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair Craig, for giving me another chance to ask this question. Where do your profits or your business sustaining monies come from? Do you take a percentage per fare, or what is that?
Yeah, so our model is all of our core technology and IP is in driving vehicle utilization, which is how can you get as many people as possible into a single vehicle at a time. And basically, the more people we can get into a vehicle at any point in time, the cheaper we can deliver the service and the more profitable we can be. And we released data actually last month that showed that if you look at the leading on-demand transit study that explores over 100 on-demand transit deployments in over 22 countries globally, our solution has outperformed 100% of those deployments, outperforming the average by 4.2x on vehicle efficiency. So that's our core technology, is the efficiency of routing makes it such that we can charge what would appear to be the cost of a fixed route bus cost, but be profitable. So that's our business model. So we invest very heavily in our routing technology.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your presentation today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, moving on to the next item for regular business. We have a report regarding Waterloo Regional Police Services CCTV camera installation on regional hydro poles. I'd like to call on Liam Leggett, solicitor, to provide an introduction.
Through the chair, my name is Liam Leggett, a corporate solicitor here at the region. And I'll be presenting the main points on my report entitled The Waterloo Regional Police Services CCTV Camera Installation on Regional Utility Poles. And just one note, some WRPS staff is here to assist during the questioning period. David Mullock, Deputy Chief Jennifer Davis, and Inspector Jarrett Brown as well. Just as some background for this report, WRPS secured funding from the Office of the Ontario Solicitor General through its Ontario CCTV program to secure funding for this program. The main purpose of it is to support investigations and enhance public safety. The reason I'm here before you today is because the CCTV cameras need to be installed on regional utility poles that are located within our rights of way. Regarding privacy, WRPS has conducted extensive conversations with the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, reviewed extensively IPC guidelines that relate directly to CCTV cameras, and also conducted their own extensive privacy impact assessment. And regional staff have confirmed that there would be no privacy impacts for the region, as we have absolutely no access to the data collected, and the data being such things as the videos and the images. So there wouldn't be a privacy impact required by us. We will defer to WRPS's privacy impact assessment and them implementing all those measures. So some high points of the agreement, if we move forward, will be the license agreement, as I mentioned, gives a license to WRPS to install the cameras on our utility poles within our right of way. There's a clause that before installing the CCTV cameras that we will make sure, and WRPS will make sure, that all recommended implementations of the privacy impact assessment are in fact in place before they install any cameras, and will continue to be in place the entire term of the agreement. Installation will be conducted in coordination with transportation staff, and standard things such as work permits will be obtained, so transportation staff will be well in the loop. Installation, repair, maintenance of the CCD cameras are completely WRPS's responsibility, and the term would be in 1-year increments for up to a maximum of 15 years. But there is a option for either party to terminate with 60 days notice. So I will now open up to any questions anybody may have, and as mentioned, some WRPS staff has graciously attended.
All right, Councillor Hunick, and as we proceed with this, folks, if you want to ask a subsequent question, I want you to ask permission of the chair, because it's just running along a little bit too loose. Sorry, Councillor Hunick, please.
Thank you, Chair Craig. Thank you for the presentation. I and many of my colleagues wish to improve public safety, no doubt about that. I'm sure that the CCTVs could have the impact to do that. However, the speed cameras also did that. And based on public response of the speed cameras were taken down by the province. And so I'm concerned that if the region invests in this, or WRPS invests in this, or it's a joint effort as you propose, that because of the lack of popularity and the concerns about safety and security and so on, the province might roll it back again. And so, from your perspective, what guarantee do we have that if implemented, this program would enjoy long-term success? Kind of.
There we go. Is that better? Thank you, Councillor Hunick, for the question, and through you, Chair. So first of all, I would say the program is very different from the speed camera program. It is a program that is supported extensively by the province right now. It was 2020 when the province first initiated the funding for the under the Solicitor General for the camera installation program, and it has now been wrapped into other grant opportunities as well for police services across the province. What else I can tell you is that the locations for the cameras is all based on an evidence-based, data-driven approach. So we are using locations where there has been higher amounts of crime reported, where there has been violence reported, where there's an increase in citizen-generated calls around specific types of crime that have occurred. We've also used information coming from the community on where things are happening to actually identify the locations for the cameras. So that's another piece of it. So they're not arbitrarily being placed anywhere. It is all based on data, the selection.
Okay, I just have a follow-up comment, if I may, Chair.
Is this a question?
It's a note for colleagues.
Sorry, Councillor Hunick, it's a question?
Sure.
Okay, so ask permission of the chair.
I just did.
Okay,
Can I
go
please
ahead.
have permission for this follow-up? Thanks, Deputy Chief Davis. I appreciate you. I just want to suggest to my colleagues, did you know that initially the ASC cameras were also supported by the province? So while the province might currently support CCTV cameras, it does not mean that that support is long-lasting. But again, Chief Davis,
Sorry,
I appreciate
Councillor.
you. Thank you.
It's got to be a question, okay? And I'll give you plenty of time for the recommendation to talk to the recommendation, okay? So I'd like you to, folks, if we could just stick to questions of the delegation. Got Councillor Sue Foxton, please.
Through you, Chair, it was going to be a comment on regards to the CT cameras, so I will wait until.
Wait till the motion
As long
comes
as
up,
you
okay?
recognize me.
No question? That's what I just said. Okay, good. Councillor Rodriguez?
I have a question.
What about, excuse me,
Well, I'm glad we're following the rules. Go ahead.
follow the speaker order.
Thanks for being here. So just have a question about how the data interfaces with artificial intelligence. And I recognized in the presentation, I think there was something about facial recognition not being applied, but again, have concerns about how data on a server or however it's saved. From your understanding, could you maybe get into that a little bit more?
I'm not exactly sure what the question part is there, because the data being saved is
Does
very
the data
different from-
interface with AI at all?
So where we will rely on artificial intelligence or AI for this would be on the back end. So our members that are trained, so we have a select group of individuals that are trained on use of the technology, can actually do manual searches of the technology with keywords or phrases or time of day or descriptors to plug that in for a search to be conducted, and then AI does the manual search. We still have that human in the loop element though, that verification process where whatever results come back, there is still an investigator then that has to look through it, has to complete the investigation to actually get to the point of laying charges.
Okay, that's it for now, Mr. Chair. I have a question of staff when the recommendation comes forward.
You have a question of staff now?
Yeah.
Let's leave that. Let's go through the questions of the delegation, and then I'll come back to you, okay? Councillor Wolf?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm comfortable with how you're going to use these cameras at this moment. Will you, if you wanted to broaden their use, would you have to come back to council for permission?
Yes, thank you, Councillor, for the question, and through you, Chair. What we are looking for support from the region right now is because the infrastructure throughout the region on many of our main roads is regional infrastructure. Yes. Although the municipalities have supported having CCTV in the municipalities, we also need support from the region of Waterloo. So we're seeking support from yourself, and then we are working through the MOUs with the municipalities as well to ensure that if there is ever a change in what we want to do or a change to the MOU, that MOU would then be brought back to the municipality's legal or the region's legal, and then that decision could be made if it's represented at council, or if it's a minor change that could just be amended to the MOU. But any change that would alter the MOU would be brought forward, yes.
Thank you. I think that's what a lot of people's concern is that, you know, you give an inch, they take a mile, so that they want it used for crime prevention, but they don't want it used for their privacy to be, you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Shantz?
Thank you. Through you to the delegation. My question is a little bit in reverse to the answer that you just gave. So you're coming here, it's regional council asking for permission to use the poles. If one of the area municipalities is not in favor, but it's a regional asset that it's being installed on, how would that work?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Shantz, and through you, Chair. Our intention is not to work with the municipality until they're ready to be part of the program. So if the intention of a municipality or a township is to wait and see how it rolls out elsewhere, that's fine. We are willing to work with that. As of today, we have Waterloo that is signed on already. Kitchener voted in favor last night, and Cambridge signed on Friday. So the three main municipalities have shown support for it. We are going back to North Dumfries shortly as well for a vote, but we are ready and willing to work with each of the townships and municipalities only when they're ready, and that would actually be one of the pieces in the contract with the region, that we would not work with the municipality or township unless there's agreement there.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Harris, please.
Yes, well, thank you for coming in today. I look forward to supporting this first and foremost, because I do think it's going to be a beneficial tool for law enforcement here in our community. I attended a session recently with the Waterloo Region Police and Councillor James out in South Kitchener. As we know, there's a lot of, vehicle thefts. We're close to the 401 corridor, but I wonder if you can help me, or I guess answer my question on really maybe one of the success stories of CCTV, perhaps in another jurisdiction that really, I think, hits home the importance of doing this in our community.
For sure. Thank you for the question, Councillor Harris. Through you, Chair. So what I can tell you is Chatham-Kent, we saw an excellent story in Chatham-Kent where they were using video surveillance to actually track a suspect. They witnessed on video the suspect threw something over a bridge. and they were able to go back after the fact and recover a firearm that had been thrown into a creek. So it recovered a weapon that had been used in a violent offense. We also know last fall there was a recent example in Guelph where they were able to use CCTV camera in their downtown area to track a suspect that had committed a violent assault against a woman in their downtown. So even just locally, we've seen examples there. York noted that in the first year of having their cameras, they saw about a 6% reduction in crime within a kilometer radius of where the cameras had been posted. So those are a couple that come to mind right off the bat.
Yeah, good. Thank you. And second question, Chair. I recently signed up for CamSafe.
Councillor, permission of the chair. Okay. Do you have a second question?
Well, I think we councillors get 2 questions. I don't think that is
I know
required
that,
to access or need permission.
Anyways, go ahead.
Second question, I get 2, I think. But anyways, I have signed up for CamSafe here in the region of Waterloo. I think it's a great program. I'm happy to participate. I wonder if you can explain to those watching at home and the rest of my colleagues what that is and why you would encourage others to do the same.
Thank you, Councillor. So CamSafe is a program that's independent of police. It is a public registry where individuals of the public, so residents, businesses, can go online and actually register if they have CCTV footage of their residents. And what they can actually do is take still shots of what that video would show and upload it to the registry. How that supports police is if there's a crime that occurs in an area, it allows us to go to the registry and see if there is maybe CCTV footage that is available. It doesn't give us access to the CCTV footage. We would still need to reach out to the owner, provide them with a link to our digital evidence management system that they could upload video footage for us. So there is a benefit in that it may allow us to get some video footage sooner. However, it's very dependent on the registrant keeping that information up to date. So if they move or if the cameras are no longer working, then that information is no longer valid information. The other piece is if we're unable to get a hold of somebody, it also limits our ability to actually collect that information. But it does help us to actually get a list of people who are willing to register cameras.
All right, Councillor Harris, my apologies. You're quite correct, okay? I'm operating under old rules. All right, Councillor Bonvic, please.
Thank you very much, Chair Craig, and thank you, Deputy Davis, for being here today. 2 questions. First one is a follow-up on the CamSafe initiative. What kind of uptake have you had on this, and what sort of proactive encouragement are we doing of the community to participate in this?
Mm-hmm. So thank you, Chair, or Councillor Verbanovic. When we first introduced the program last fall, since that time, I can give you the numbers for Kitchener because I referenced them last night, that we've had about 160 different residents or businesses that have registered for it just in the Kitchener area. So overall, I can't give you an exact number for that, but I would say that it's a little lower than I would like to see, but I think for us, what it allows us to do is just more community messaging about the importance that it can provide for police. When we actually talked to the founders of CamSafe, they actually thought our uptake was quite well for the short period of time we've had it. So a lot of what we're trying to do is send out regular messaging to people just to remind them about the program and the ability to register in the program. We have used it in some neighborhoods that have been targeted for vehicle thefts, almost like through a door knocker program to let them know that they can do it. We've provided handouts or cards with a QR code basically at some of the downtown businesses to register for it as well. So taking whatever avenue we can, even using this as an opportunity to encourage people to register would be ways that we're trying to broaden people's awareness of it.
Great, thank you. And if I can, my follow-up question, you referenced earlier, I believe, York Region, that talked about a reduction in crime near the camera. And I know, cameras have been talked about being used in city centers and so on for many years. And often the experience was, while there may be a reduction in the area of the camera, it simply just moves down the street to another area. Obviously, we're using a higher degree of technology today, or you would be, than 20 years ago. But I'm just wondering, what was the experience in a place like York Region in that regard? Did it simply just move it down the road?
Thank you for the question. To my knowledge, no, that's not been the issue. That was one of the factors that they used when they actually expanded their CCTV implementation. We just through research have seen the use of CCTV cameras in the UK for many, many years and the successes that it has had there. And then really we've been following the number of regions and municipalities across Ontario that have it just to see the various successes they've been having. That hasn't been raised as one factor, but there would probably need to be more in-depth analysis to determine that. What I can say is that once the cameras are installed, they're not fixed forever. These cameras you can install them and remove them quite easily. So as we continue to look at that data-driven, evidence-based approach, if we notice that crime patterns are changing or maybe crime is shifting, the cameras can be moved as well. So they're not necessarily fixed forever in one location.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Councillor Solomon, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation today. I already know the answer, but I'm asking on behalf of my Wilmot residents because I know our council has already had quite a discussion in Wilmot about this. In the approval of this today, if council were to support it, it still requires, if there isn't an MOU in place with the municipality, it still requires the area municipality to agree for these cameras to go up in their jurisdiction, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair Craig. I have two questions. I'm going to ask them both at the same time.
That's fine, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll keep an eye on it, go ahead.
Deputy Davis, I think that fundamental to all of this is the policy framework, and I know that WRPS was very diligent about that, so I'm wondering if you could enlighten us about the policy framework, and you've referenced some of the fine points. And Liam, I guess I would ask you, does the region currently have any cameras? So those are my two questions.
I'll answer the first one. Thank you, Chair Edmund, and through the chair. We did extensive planning around creating not only our privacy impact assessment, so I'll say we drafted our privacy impact assessment, we met with the IPC, we took feedback that they gave us on different sections of it, we implemented the feedback, and then we shared our completed privacy impact assessment with them. On top of that, and also noted in our PIA, is the fact that we have a board policy in place and we have a very detailed procedure in place. And what that does is it outlines all of our requirements about reporting, it outlines requirements about who has access to it, what training needs to be undertaken to have access. It outlines who can make a request for access to video, that as soon as video is actually accessed, it is then uploaded automatically into our digital evidence management system. It outlines that any information that is not required at 30 days automatically is removed from the database. So it's no longer stored, so data is only stored for a 30-day period of time and automatically removes. It outlines all of the safeguards that we have in place to really balance public safety and also privacy rights of our community. Is that full?
Thank you. And Liam, the Waterloo region, do we currently have our own cameras?
To my knowledge, no, but that is something I can further investigate with staff and report back to the councillors. But definitely no installation, obviously, of these WRSP cameras or similar ones like that.
Thank you very much.
All right, Councillor Foxton, please.
Thank you. What I was going to state earlier is, North Dumfries is looking at this. I'm hoping that we will pass it on Monday night. We've lost a couple of $1 million in the last year on thefts. And this will tremendously help those vehicles and stuff being taken, in my opinion. And I think it will be saving the people have spent another $500,000 trying to protect their property so that no further theft happens and thefts happen again. So I think this is essential, and I thank you very much.
Councillor, that was a question? No. Okay. Okay. Councillor Hunick, please.
Thank you, Chair Craig. Deputy Chief Davis, I think you referenced provincial funding for this program. Can you just speak to, is it fully funded by the province currently? Will there be a budget line in the WRPS budget? How much is it going to cost WRPS to implement this program?
Thank you, Councillor Hunick. So we received $100,000 of grant funding from the ministry last year. That was matched also with $100,000 from WRPS. So that is what has already purchased those 52 cameras at the first 10 locations that we hope to pilot. But we have also built in basically a 10-year forecasting in our budget to expand the program as well. And part of that also will be to look at opportunities to integrate existing infrastructure as well. So aside from just introducing new cameras, we would like to, as a next phase, really look at how we can integrate existing infrastructure. And we're starting to see that in some area municipalities who are working with private businesses or things like what would be Grand River Transit or the ION, et cetera, where we could access video either to recover evidence, or if there's a major incident happening, that we could actually monitor in real time to respond. So where I can tell you also their cost savings is that right now when we're doing video canvasses, we are doing them door to door, and it's officers that are doing that, investigators, patrol officers, et cetera. So where we see the cost savings as well is that will still happen, but we will have the ability to access video footage sooner so that we can be more efficient. We can narrow down timelines, persons of interest, things like that, to really find efficiencies in our officers and to support them in investigations.
I look forward to supporting this because I know that public safety is very important. I suggest that we expand the program very gradually just in case the province decides to roll it back. Thanks.
All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we need a motion on the floor. We need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Urban, Councillor Wolf, please. Okay. Speaking to the motion? No one? Councillor Vrbanovic? Okay. All right, Councillor Vrbanovic?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the representatives from Waterloo Regional Police for coming in and making the presentation here this evening. As Deputy Davis indicated, our council did deal with it last night, and it was passed, but it wasn't unanimous. There was 4 members of our council who voted against it, including myself. And I just want to share some perspectives on that. And as I said last night, first and foremost, I want to acknowledge the work that the frontline officers, the women and men of Waterloo Regional Police Service do day in and day out to keep our community safe. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to witness that firsthand many times, including with Deputy Davis in her previous roles. And for those who have never done that, I encourage you to do that because it does give you a sense and a perspective of both what they deal with and some of the challenges that are experienced in our community. When I think a couple of things really, influenced where I landed on this. And certainly I've heard from people on both sides of the issue, some who are supportive of it and some, and I would say more so who are concerned about it. And concerned about it from a privacy point of view and its impact on everyday citizens. I mean, this is not something that I think is new to any of us. Quite frankly, we're seeing it in the world around us. We're seeing it how it's playing out, south of the border, and how their democracy, quite frankly, is being compromised because of a direction of their political leadership, and we're seeing it in other parts of the world as well. I'm not suggesting in any way that that's where you know, the situation is here today in Canada. But, you know, I think it was my colleague, Scott Davey, yesterday who, and I want to, I'm going to try to paraphrase him on this. But if you think back to some of the books, you know, that we've read, like 1984 and so on, and he said, you know, people couldn't pinpoint exactly at what point in time people lost their freedom and their privacy. They just realized that at some point they did. You know, I think the concern here is that this does take us down a path at a point when I think there's a lot more work that can be done to engage people in CamSafe and other kinds of initiatives, but ones that are not tied into systems where, you know, it is connected to AI and so on. And we potentially go down a path where, you know, broader concerns around privacy may not become an issue. I know we just did an Abacus survey as part of our strategic planning process in the city of Kitchener, and for residents who felt unsafe, the number one issue that came forward was, you know, 23% of them said that they part of their number one sense of feeling unsafe was a rising crime and a lack of presence. And I think what it speaks to me is something that I know I hear from regularly, and I said this last night, is a desire to see, you know, more feet on the ground in our downtowns, more feet on, or you know, cars or bikes in our neighborhoods and so on. Those are the things that I hear from residents regularly. You know, I was just with, you know, mayors from other urban centers in other communities around the world last week, and all of them talked about the importance of feet on the ground in their downtowns and how that creates, you know, perceptions of safety. And so, you know, those are the things that I would like to see us focus on first before we go down this path. So while I do think, you know, this is well-intentioned, I think there are other things that we can do before this. And so as I did at the City of Kitchener, I reluctantly won't be able to support this. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Liggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Referring to 1984, that was quite a book, but I don't remember a character in that book that was the privacy commissioner. So I'm very grateful that the police did consult with the privacy commissioner and that we had the go ahead for this. I concur with Councillor Verbanovich about feet on the ground. You know, there's nothing like that, and we need to have that for the crimes that are happening every day. And you know, when people call for assistance, that they get that assistance, or the police coming to a crime scene, we've got them. But the cameras themselves, we've had usage of that just this week with the robbery at LA Frank's. I'm sure everybody's heard about that. And if it wasn't for the cameras, we would be making assumptions that aren't true, because those cameras showed the people actually doing the theft and how they did the theft. So I thank the police for partnering with us on that, with the cameras on that. But the other thing, what people don't know, is that we had a attempted theft at Dixon Arena of our air conditioning units, but you cannot do those sorts of things without the vigilance of the local citizenry. That one was caught in action by a local citizen. So it's like a partnership of the public, the municipalities, and the police department together. I'm fully supportive of this. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I have a question of staff, if that's okay.
Please.
Thanks, and through you to staff. The report notes, I think, a nominal amount of operating dollars per year. Much like we're pursuing new agreements with some of our other utility providers to make sure we're getting costs recovered when using regional infrastructure. Just curious if we've given any thought to how that cost can be, how that cost gets absorbed either by the region, or if there's an opportunity for that to be fully covered by WRPS as it's their system on our infrastructure, much like we're pursuing with the likes of Enbridge and others who use our infrastructure.
The costing was investigated by regional staff, and it's very minimal, basically equivalent to actually less than a light bulb would. I believe yearly, the maximum, basically worst case scenario would be about $4,000. Staff have contemplated that and are willing to absorb that cost. I think it would maybe be more expensive to track those energy costs that are quite minimal. So transportation staff have put their minds to that, and we have made a conscious decision to absorb those costs ourselves.
Thanks for that information. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Erb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to support this. I understand the concerns about privacy, but I also understand that our community and our citizens are wanting to keep the community safe, and I think that has to be paramount for those that are concerned about the individuals in the community that are concerned about the privacy of it. Don't do anything that would jeopardize you by being seen by one of these cameras, and there wouldn't be any concerns then about the privacy. I think as well, referring back to what Deputy Chief Davies said, by saving resources of the police department goes a long way as well. And so this is another way, I think, of just keeping our community safer.
All right, Councillor Solomon, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you again for bringing the report. I just wanted to note on the public record, I will be in favor of this, but this is not in contrast to what Wilmot Council voted on against bringing them into Wilmot. This is to enable other municipalities, should they want to have this, so that they're able to utilize regional infrastructure.
All right, I'm sorry, Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair Craig. I too will be very supportive of this. And Liam, I apologize. I probably should have directed my question about does the region have cameras actually to facilities or to GRTA. I would tell you that my understanding is that most area municipalities, if not all of them, do have cameras for protection of facilities. And I'm wondering if Commissioner Getzky might just talk about our GRT cameras. They're ubiquitous, and I would really defend public safety in the fact that the bad guys going down Highway 8 or Highway 7, those are the kinds of cameras that are going to catch the bad guys in real time and relieve the stress on our staff so that we can have more boots on the ground. So I think it's a yes and, but Commissioner Getzky, do you want to talk a little bit about the cameras that already exist that the region controls?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, so I mean, cameras are part of I would say the standard security package on board buses and at facilities. There's very strict rules on how an investigation can be instigated. There is very short limits, I think 48 hours beyond which we erase all of the data, so we're not storing any information in the long term. Overall, they're very helpful on a general basis. They're helpful from a liability perspective. And again, where there's a number of protections and processes to make sure that the feed can only be used in very specific circumstances upon request from staff, WRPS, or customers after an incident occurs on a bus. But it's part of it's part of our standard package, and same is true, I would say, from a security facility standpoint. That's part of the recommended approach and the best practice today from a security perspective.
Thank you.
Councillor Schatz.
Thank you. Similar to Councillor Salonen, I'm going to support the motion. You know, as was already said, we've got cameras everywhere, dash cams, porch cams, phones, with no protections at all on many of those. But I'm agreeing with the motion with the caveat that you know, some communities, including mine, may not be happy to have them there. And so thank you for your comments about respecting the will of the local communities on that. So I support this motion.
All right, I'm going to call the question on eScribe, please. Go to eScribe for your vote. Okay. All right, it's carried, folks. Okay, moving on. The next item for the regular business is a report to the Municipal Speed Enforcement Program closeout. I'm going to ask the Commissioner of Transportation Services again to be on the hotspot. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So just for introduction, as you know, in November of last year, the province repealed the legislative framework that enabled automated speed enforcement, requiring municipalities to discontinue their speed camera programs on or before November 13th of 2025. In parallel, the province introduced a road safety initiatives fund to be able to support municipalities in maintaining and enhancing road safety at locations where cameras had been previously implemented. And the region is eligible for up to $6.9 million in funding through 2 rounds of funding. The report that we're bringing to you today is a closeout of the overall program. So since the repeal, we've been working on the technical side of things, closing the region's processing center and administrative penalties program, and adding the new school zone signage as required by the province. So this report that's brought to you today seeks council approval of the road safety reserve, so what is left in the road safety from the revenues while the cameras were operating. Some of the revenue is still coming in. All the fees have not been collected, so that will go on. So we built a bit of an allocation principle there, and to also distribute the provincial monies. Because as the agreement holder for speed cameras, the Ministry of Transportation has asked us to act as the accountable applicant and administrator of that provincial funding. So the region will be responsible for developing a coordinated application for that round 2 of funding, which we're doing in collaboration with area municipalities to support eligible road safety initiatives and meet some of the objectives of the overall program, which was to improve road safety in the school zones across the region. So the recommendation of the report today is an approval of the allocation mechanism, providing authorization for staff to submit an application on behalf of the region and area municipalities to the province to be able to obtain the round 2 of funding, and then that includes being able to sign a transfer payment agreement with a province to be able to get the money to flow to the region and to area municipalities, so we can deliver on these road safety improvements in a very tight window, because today the program has a limit to up to March of 2028. So we have basically one major construction season of 2027 to be able to do that. So looking forward to any further questions. And I know Doug, who's been a big, the artisan of setting this program up and helping to close it out, is available as well for any detailed questions.
All right, Councillor Rodriguez, please. Questions?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to staff for this great report. And I think it starts, again, that great conversation about moving forward from where we were and how we continue to fund road safety projects. So just some questions about the phase 2 funding. So you talk about projects that are going to have to happen effectively next year. Could you maybe talk to the nature, like what types of projects can we start seeing, and complementary to that in terms of funding that goes to area municipalities? What safeguards or guardrails are in place that those dollars are in fact used for school zone safety, and there is that sort of clear linkage between what was a really strong ASE program that was intended to deliver these outcomes to actually deliver these outcomes in the school zones that we were working on and had things in. Hope that makes some sense.
Through you, Chair. So the provincial funding has well-defined eligibility rules, so that's going to be the first grid through which these will be reviewed. I know that it's going to be really up to area municipalities to decide what they want to prioritize within the limits of that provincial eligibility. For the provincial portion, for the regional portion, so overall $7 million. It's both a lot of money and not a lot of money. I know the roundabout safety pilots that we're testing this year are it's about $1 million a piece. So it's not a lot of, because these are significant physical interventions. There are lighter touch interventions that can be undertaken. We know, for example, today the focus and for the round one funding, which we want to move pretty quickly, is really based on the driver feedback signs. So that does work a little bit for some drivers. We're trying to, as we continue to progress with safety-specific measures, we're trying to keep on measuring things to understand where do you get the best value for money, where's the best bang for the buck in terms of what you need to do in the road. Sometimes the driver, depending on context, sometimes the feedback signs work. Sometimes really the best solution is a change in geometry, which always is going to be more costly. So that's kind of the kind of things that we'll bring back. I think once we have good information, for example, about the roundabout safety pilot, that might be a way to, these might be prioritized. We'll bring that back to council as well, so you have a clear understanding of where the value for money might be and how to best utilize the regional share of the provincial dollars, understanding that the rest of it will be up to area municipalities and their own policies and very specific circumstances of each school zone, because they're all a bit different, and so I think they need their specific solutions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I have no more questions. I need to have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wolf, please, and a seconder. Councillor Rodriguez. Okay, your e-scribe, folks. And that's carried.
I'm still voting.
Okay, my apologies. It's almost carried. Councillor Rodriguez, we don't have you. Okay, it's carried. All right, moving on, folks. The next item for the regular business, we have a staff report regarding the annual review of asset management planning progress. Now I'll call on Connie McDonald, Commissioner of Resident Experience Strategy and Communications, to provide an introduction. This is just information.
Great. Thank you, and through the chair. As the interim commissioner for strategic initiatives and asset management, I'm pleased to introduce the team who will provide an update on the region's asset management plan. Katie Johnson is the director of strategic initiatives and asset management, and Tim Walton is the is the manager of asset management. Over to Katie and Tim.
Great. Good afternoon. Infrastructure assets form the foundation of service delivery for the region. Asset management is critical because it ensures that essential regional infrastructure assets like roads, facilities, water infrastructure, the landfill are safe, reliable, and sustainable over the long term for residents of Waterloo Region. Asset management is the structured way that the region plans, maintains, and invests in infrastructure assets so services can be delivered reliably and affordably over the long term. Asset management allows the region to make evidence-based investment decisions with the intention to do the right work at the right time for the right investment. Today, we have the opportunity to bring forward a report on the region's progress in implementing its asset management plan. Ontario Regulation 588/17, Asset Management Planning for Municipal Infrastructure, mandates that Ontario municipalities develop a comprehensive, data-driven asset management plan to support long-term planning for infrastructure life cycles. The regulation requires Ontario municipalities to provide an annual update to Council on asset management planning progress. Through the report on the region's progress in implementing its asset management plan, we will also identify barriers that are impacting progress and will discuss strategies that are in place to address the barriers. Following the progress update, a few program areas will have the opportunity to highlight impacts of the infrastructure gap in providing service to the residents of the region. I'll hand things over to Tim Walton, Manager of Asset Management, to give an update on the region's progress in implementing the asset management plan.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, could we go to slide 3, please? So the region's infrastructure portfolio has a total replacement value of $11.3 billion. This is in line with the findings of the 2025 asset management plan. While the asset portfolio has grown since the asset management plan, it has been minimal, which is expected because it's been 11 months since the last evaluation of this asset management plan. The total asset portfolio value will change from year to year due to inflation, deflation, addition of new assets, retiring of existing assets, and general data improvements over time. The progress report identifies that over 84% of the region's assets are in fair or better condition, which is referred to as a state of good repair. This report also shows a slight deterioration in overall condition. And again, this is also expected as we are carrying an infrastructure funding gap. Overall deterioration is minimal over the last 11 months, but what we are seeing is a trend of the asset portfolio moving from very good and good categories into the fair category. So context is important with respect to data presented in the state of good repair. While the condition of very good and good requires less maintenance and renewal intervention, a condition of fair indicates that the asset is showing signs of deterioration and as such will require more attention. This increases the operational burden of the asset, its likelihood of failure, and ultimately increases the complexity and cost of the renewal work that is required. When asset condition shifts from good to fair, it's important to note that the asset is moving into a more labor-intensive phase of its life cycle with increasing risk of failure, decreasing reliability, and potentially resulting in more complex and costly renewal work. This progress report indicates that there is a $182 million growth of the fair category. The annual average level of investment in asset renewal over the 10-year capital program of $233.9 million falls short of the optimal level of investment needs identified in the 2026 progress report of $321.5 million. This represents a renewal funding shortfall or infrastructure funding gap of $87.6 million per year. This analysis assumes that beginning in 2027, 60% of the GRT replacement bus costs required to maintain existing service levels will be funded through the Canada Public Transit Fund Metro Region Agreement. This is consistent with historical funding patterns, as replacement buses have received more than 80% senior government funding under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, which formed part of the federal Investing in Canada plan announced in Budget 2016. If this funding is not announced as anticipated, the region's infrastructure funding gap would increase by $17.5 million. In that event, the region would need to fund or reallocate capital capacity to fleet replacement starting in 2027. Next slide, please. Through this report, we can see that the region's infrastructure funding gap has grown. So reasons for this include limitations on the amount of funding available to complete infrastructure renewal work, an aging asset portfolio that demands an ever-increasing amount of funding. Also, it's worth noting that there's a competition for limited infrastructure funds, requiring the region to prioritize renewal work, meaning not all work gets completed. There's also capital plan delivery challenges, and we see costs are increasing due to the impacts of inflation. There are challenges with performing infrastructure renewal work while meeting operational demands. It's difficult to take infrastructure offline for renewal work due to the demands on the services derived from the infrastructure itself. Next slide, please. So this progress report has confirmed that despite ongoing efforts, the funding of infrastructure renewal has become a continual challenge. This challenge is confirmed by an ongoing and growing infrastructure funding gap. To address the infrastructure funding gap, the region has implemented a number of strategies, including a pay-as-you-go strategy to add operating funds to capital reserves for current and projected renewal work, utilizing the asset management plan as a critical component in the region's budget process by prioritizing risk and criticality of our infrastructure assets, and also a debt limit strategy that supports balancing affordability with borrowing needs for capital works. All of these approaches are informed by tracking and monitoring our levels of service. In 2026, finance staff are undertaking work on a reserve policy to align with insight from the asset management plan. Implementation of a capital infrastructure financing plan and updated reserve policy will align with work underway to build and mature a capital prioritization framework. These initiatives are anticipated to improve capital governance and will work towards developing a long-term strategy to address infrastructure funding. So back over to Katie Johnson.
Thanks, Tim. Next slide, please. So what does the infrastructure gap mean in practice? It directly shapes the level and reliability of services delivered to residents. It shows up as delayed maintenance, reduced service levels, and growing risks to reliability. Over the next few slides, a few program areas will highlight how the infrastructure gap more specifically impacts service delivery in the areas. We'll start with the airport.
Thank you, Katie. To reduce budget pressures in 2026, the airport moved approximately $38 million in work out past the 10-year capital program timeline. While we understand the need for this is temporary, it is anticipated that these short-term measures over the long run will result in more expenses. Over the past year, we have had renewal work happening, such as the regrading of the runway end safety areas, or known as the RESAs. We have also had some minor repairs to the airfield asphalt and catch basins and communications conduit. To keep the primary runway operational, there is important runway minimal required work planned for next year, which is currently in the 2027 budget. Lower priority tasks are being deferred to work within the existing capital budget. These will have significant impacts on the airport over the next 10 years if we do not see the capital budget increase over time to keep our airport assets in good repair and meet the requirements as we continue to serve the community.
Next slide, please. So one of the unique factors about asset management in waste is that some of the assets never retire. Even after their end of life, we're still required to safely maintain them. Asset renewal projects are essential to meet our legislative requirements. This includes maintaining environmental control systems, which includes landfill gas, leachate, odor control, groundwater, and surface water systems. We also handle operations and maintenance at our current open landfill, as well as 5 closed landfill sites. In 2025, the team initiated 25 different renewal projects to maintain Waste Management's asset portfolio in a state of good repair. To highlight a few, at the Waterloo landfill, the Landfill Gas Master Control Center will be upgraded and replaced this year, and landfills cell 6A, 6B, and leachate pump station detailed design is underway. At the closed landfill in Kitchener, design has started to replace the landfill gas header and force main, and we're also replacing the salt bunkers in Waterloo and at the closed Cambridge landfill. Next slide. To maintain our landfill and responsibilities in waste management, aging waste infrastructure, especially at the Waterloo landfill site, needs to be replaced. A project of note that is shown currently in the infrastructure funding gap is the transfer station upgrade and renewal project to address aging critical infrastructure and to enhance the resident experience. Without this project and other asset renewal work completed, the region is at risk of infrastructure failures and operational impacts that could pose public health and environmental risks. Main breaks or failures can result in leachate backup, reduced landfill gas collection, community odor impacts, and health risks to the community. We also know that increased traffic and overflow onto Herb Street from the Waterloo landfill, which decreases the user experiences and increases health and safety impacts for not only road users, but for surrounding regional services. There's also potential liability exposure with MECP and PEO if we don't carry out the work known for critical assets. If we also don't complete this work, we may have difficulty obtaining ministry approvals and agreements for future work, and of course, potential for loss of revenue and lower customer service levels for those visiting the landfill. This is why maintaining our assets, like those at the Waterloo Waste Management Site, is critical to providing services to residents and businesses. I'll now pass it over to Commissioner Brothers to speak to water services.
Thank you, Connie. Staff and Water and Wastewater Services plan repairs and enhancements to existing infrastructure strategically during off-peak seasons when possible. However, emergency repairs require immediate response and staff remobilization, which impacts our ability to sustain assets. Our complex and aging water system was one factor that was used to identify a water capacity constraint in the Mannheim service area. The declining state of our infrastructure, including the Parkway Reservoir as an example, impacts our ability to sustain a water supply. As a consequence of this is why we need the resiliency factor. As the systems go down, we need to have the buffer that's in place. So this is a direct correlation between infrastructure, sustaining, making investments to keep things online. There were over 300 active water and wastewater renewal projects conducted in the region last year. We repaired and replaced ongoing at 3 elevated storage tanks, 11 discrete drinking water systems as defined by MECP, 7 water pumping stations, 13 wastewater treatment plants, and 5 pumping stations. You may be familiar with some of these projects, like the Greenbrook emergency repairs and rehabilitation projects, as we expedite the work in the Mannheim service area to address the capacity constraint. Next slide. Aging water and wastewater assets are resulting in increased renewal projects and an increased risk of unplanned failures. Renewal projects are complex and require appropriate resources to manage the challenges associated with these deliveries. This is particularly important at the water treatment plants, where you have significant underground piping, electrical components, and so forth, and taking any of these systems down creates operational complexities for us to sustain the water supply. So you can't get ahead of this if we're kind of take plants down to rehab and sustain the certain amount of capacity that the system demands. It's very difficult. When you consider that only a limited number of assets can be taken offline at any same time to sustain the water supply, it becomes even more challenging. The consequences of not delivering renewal projects in a timely manner include increased operational burden as a result of operation and maintenance resources allocated to emergencies, increased risk of failure and disruption of services from deferring replacement works, and higher life cycle costs arising from repairing infrastructure repeatedly as opposed to replacing the infrastructure. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to Commissioner Stifler.
Thank you, Ken. Facilities and fleet management support a very large and complex building portfolio across the region, including Waterloo Regional Housing, administrative buildings, and operational facilities required to deliver services. In total, the region manages approximately 900 buildings, comprising approximately 7.4 million square feet of space. Our building portfolio includes Waterloo Regional Housing, the administrative buildings, police, paramedic, transit, and facilities to run our services. A significant share of renewal work is focused on Waterloo Regional Housing, where repairs and replacements directly affect tenant living conditions and quality of life. Renewal work is an important aspect of the work in facilities, as our buildings are aging and take more effort to maintain. Recent renewal work focused on maintaining the homes of our residents includes repairs and replacements like windows, HVAC systems, electrical systems, roofs, asphalt, bathrooms, access controls, and playgrounds. Repairing and maintaining these homes is not only an essential service to our residents, but it impacts their living conditions in their homes. Next slide. The infrastructure funding gap means more deferred renewal work, a growing backlog, and rising operating pressures that directly results in increased operating and maintenance costs as staff try to repair the aging infrastructure nearing its end of life. The impact is cumulative. Deferrals create a domino effect across future years as more work is pushed out into the capital plan. Renewal work becomes more expensive as conditions worsen. Further decreases to operating costs compound into higher maintenance levels. This also results in increased risk of asset failures that can cause service disruptions. This negatively impacts levels of service and the state of our assets. To ensure we prioritize appropriately, safety and legislative compliance come first, followed by the highest need work, especially where further deferral could create longer-term capital costs. The organization continues to make disciplined choices despite the continued constraints. I'll now pass it over to Commissioner Getsky to do Transportation and Transit Services update.
Thank you. So very similar to the other families of assets that we've been talking about, transportation is relied on every day for our residents and community to get to work, school, and the places that matter most to them. As our roads, bridges, culverts, and stormwater infrastructure continue to age, the challenge and the cost to maintain them continues to increase. Work that could once be addressed through regular maintenance or small repairs now often requires more significant investment. With current funding levels, it's becoming more difficult to maintain the safety, reliability, and performance of the assets over time. And we know that as they move to poor and very poor categories, the degradation is even faster, and the service levels are degraded. I know the slide takes an example of bridges. We have one bridge today, Freeport Bridge, which is under load restrictions. So it's part of the capital program to remediate that, but that's what happens when you wait long on these assets. Culverts and stormwater is also impacted by climate change. We know climate change, it's impacting our road surfaces, more freeze-thaw cycles, more extreme weather events is impacting that surface infrastructure, and everything that's underneath, and the stormwater piece is particularly important to manage. So as this advances, our work is shifting to more, let's say, operating repairs and reactive repairs just to keep the infrastructure working, which also makes it more challenging to invest in proactive renewals that could improve service for residents, like road widenings or traffic improvements and better active transportation connections. So as a result, we are taking a focused approach, closely monitoring asset condition, prioritizing investments where they are needed most, and planning for the renewals that will keep the transportation network safe and reliable. Next slide. With respect to transit, it's also a key service for many residents in the region, and we need, one of the key pieces of the assets there is our buses. We need to be able to replace buses, and we need to be able to upgrade transit facilities. One of the challenges we're actively managing is uncertainty around provincial and federal funding as transit programs shift from the Investing in Canada infrastructure program, which we are very grateful for helping us in the last over the last decade in terms of bus renewal. But as this shifts to the Canada Public Transit Fund, and a lot of pressures there, a lot of people are queuing up to obtain provincial and federal funding from that fund. That creates a funding risk for our bus renewal. Our bus fleet is getting older, and the asset life of buses, 14 to 15 years, that's a short lifespan for assets, so that comes on you pretty quickly. 82 buses, or about 25% of our current fleet, are within the last 5 years of their planned 14-year life cycle. So we are looking into whether some of buses can stay on the road longer based on their individual condition, and what the cost would be to refurbish them and extend their service life, which can help in the short term, but it will create some reliability issues over time. And that means service reliability for our customer. We also need to look carefully at our transit facilities. We know in our 10-year capital program, there's no money specifically on the Cambridge garage, but we know it is getting near to its end of useful life. It needs upgrades because it's full to the brim. It does not operate as efficiently as it could, and there is limited room to expand the site on site. So the staff have initiated a study to review the current facility, look at possible locations for a new one, and confirm what will be needed in the future. So our focus is planning ahead, mitigating some of the risks, making the best use of available funding, and taking practical steps to continue to support safe and reliable transit service for residents now and in the future. And I'll pass it back to Katie.
Thank you, Commissioner Gutsky. Next slide, please. Risk cannot be completely eliminated through asset management. By understanding where highest risks exist, we can deliberately reduce the likelihood and impact of infrastructure failure. We are also always balancing affordability with managing risk. Strategies utilized to mitigate risk of failures include ongoing and iterative strategic planning and prioritization of critical work, increased maintenance to extend the life of assets wherever possible, increased performance monitoring and condition assessment of critical assets, increased inspections on deferred asset replacements, increased operational work that is absorbed by staff to manage asset-related risks, assigning budget and resource against highest risk projects, strategic and coordinated planning work to minimize service disruption, and providing redundancy and operational resiliency when possible. I'll hand it back over to Commissioner McDonald to wrap up our presentation.
Thank you, and thank you to the team for all the work on this year's update. The update report will be posted to the region's website prior to the deadline of July 1st, 2026. Council will receive an update on implementing the asset management plan on an annual basis. As a reminder, the legislation requires that the region's asset management policy be updated every 5 years. The next update is due in 2028. The legislation also requires that the region's asset management plan be updated every 5 years, and that next asset management plan will be completed in 2030. Asset management planning will continue to be a priority, and you'll continue to receive policy and project updates throughout the year. And with that, we're happy to go back to you, Chair, for questions.
All right, questions, members of council. It's an information package. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonald, for this report and for the team that also helped present it. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I thought we were voting on an asset management review that costed $350,000 today. I thought there was a vote here. I didn't know it was for information only. Can I get clarity on that? Oh, never mind. Okay. Thank you for the report. Awesome. Keep going. Good.
All right. I don't see any further questions, folks. It's a huge report, and it's a huge effort to present this, and we certainly do appreciate it. And I think the information for the public in general is certainly going to be well received, and it gives the public a very good understanding of the issues we face as a regional community. So it's an excellent report. Thank you. All right, moving on. Next item for regular business is a report regarding the development of a corporate facilities strategic plan. I'm now going to call upon Aaron Moss, Director of Facilities and Fleet Management, to provide an introduction.
I'll provide the introduction. Aaron is here as well for questions.
All right, Wayne, go ahead, please.
This report is a follow-up to the approved motion directing staff to undertake work on a corporate facilities strategic plan and bring forward a plan for council's consideration. It recommends a more coordinated, long-term approach to how the region plans, uses, and renews and invests in its corporate facilities, including workplace planning, space needs, policies, and standards. The work will help us ensure that future accommodations are tied to service delivery needs, hybrid work realities, asset condition, growth, and long-term financial sustainability. The report also provides the proposed scope, funding, and timeline to move this work forward in a structured way, with staff reporting back to committee and council with findings, options, and a recommended implementation strategy. So I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, Councillor Hunick, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll be honest, the price tag and the volume of work involved in this kind of a motion scares me a little bit. But then again, I don't know if there's ever going to be a better time to do this. From staff's perspective, is this motion coming at ultimate timing, or would there be a better time to do it, such as perhaps when the next asset management plan is due?
Through the chair, I think this is a good time to pursue something like this. I think you put this in context. We're looking for the office space we have. We're looking at around 700,000 square feet of space. So this is thinking about as we look to optimize the use of that space, we'll have to make modifications to that space. That can be very expensive. Doing renewal work can be in that like 350,000 a square foot cost. So spending this money here to make sure we have a good long-term plan, I think would be money well spent.
Okay, great. Thank you for your perspective.
All right. Councillor Rodriguez.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, staff, for the report and getting it back so quick after the motion. I guess my question to you, Commissioner Steffler, and the CAO may wish to comment on this as well, is how this process is going to consider return to office planning. Right now we're at 3 days a week, generally I understand. I'd like to understand if this, part of the conversation that we've had in previous committees is that the current work arrangements have saved us a lot of money because there were long plans to build another tower or find new office space. And I'm just curious to understand how those conversations will unfold through this plan. And much like, say, the airport plan, where there were these triggers of, once we hit this, we need to do this, and once we do this, then we hit this. Yeah, I'd just like to understand how the strategic plan could think about those different, if we could go to a 4-day work week, or if it's, 5-day work week, what are the cost ranges for that, to understand, and that's 5-day work week in office. Just would like to understand if that can be captured in this.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, definitely this assessment will give us it'll be the foundation to do that value for money sort of assessment to understand how much do we have to invest if we want to change any of the existing benefits that we offer to staff in general. So we need to undertake this assessment beforehand. And then, as Wayne has already mentioned, we will bring forward the numbers to council for their consideration in terms of what the trade-offs are and where the value overall is for the region.
No, that's great to hear, and appreciate the context. I think that's going to be so important for us to understand when we talk about adding new space or renovating space. So thanks for that. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gowing.
Through you, Chair, thanks. This is exactly what I was looking for. This is perfect. The only thing that I'm going to ask is looking at the list of facilities that we have, I noticed that the old police building is not listed here. I'm wondering if that is something that it was just an oversight, or are we not considering looking at that as well?
I'll have Aaron come down.
Yeah, thank you for the question through the chair. We can look at that. Just right now, we are going through a bit of a process with the old WRPS site, so that's why it wasn't on there to begin with. We'll have more information once we get through the remediation work that's going on there. And then if we can add it after the fact.
Okay, and then just to follow up on that, the work that's being done currently on that, are we going to get information back on where it stands and what's happening?
Yeah, we can through the chair, we can bring that back as soon as we have an updated information on it. There's a lot going on there that we didn't foresee coming.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, Councillor Wolf, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair. A few points. Is a consultant doing the work, or are we doing the work?
So through the chair, so staff will be needed to be a part of this, but we will also need a consultant that has the expertise to be able to do some of the optimization analysis. Also, looking to them to bring forward what are the current best practices, successful practices and approaches. As you're probably aware, a lot has changed in the world of office life and development since COVID. So that kind of expertise I think would be very valuable to us to incorporate into our plans going forward.
Okay. What I have a bit of a problem with the cost, which generally means consultant, $350,000 and a year. And top-down approach. In my experience, often where you get staff to work on a problem or a space, you have a happier staff and cheaper and I think more productive solution. So I would like you maybe to look at, a 6 month and half the price implementation of this space, because I'd rather spend $350,000 on the implementation rather than the plan. And anyway, my comments. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Urbanovic.
Thank you very much, Chair Craig, and just a couple follow-up questions on the responses that were previously given. First of all, just for clarity on the issue of return to office and so on, because it wasn't clear that. So in terms of the information that will be coming back on the report, is the report coming back going to speak specifically to here's what's needed for the current setup, or will it actually also speak to cost and space needs for 4 days and 5 days in the office? Because I think that's specifically what we're looking for.
Through the chair, so yes, we can incorporate that as well, that we look at that potential if there was additional days in the office. So we'll include that in the analysis.
Okay, and when you look at it, you're going to look at it in the context of, I know the way the buildings were originally built and set up, not unlike City Hall, is very different in terms of how spaces are set up today, based on best practices. So you'll look at it, if a manager had 120 square feet before or whatever, and that was the assumption in a closed office, that's not necessarily going to be the assumption going forward.
Correct, and again, it's why engaging experts that have done a lot of similar work, look at best practices. What is the current best practice? What creates the best? Thinking about workplace. We want a productive workplace. We want to use those current best practices and incorporate that into our systems and into our buildings.
Okay, thank you for that. And just on the former Central Division next door, and I know there was said that there was a report going to be coming back, but there's a whole bunch of stuff being done to it. Can we get some clarification on what the stuff is in the meantime, recognizing that we don't, we won't have all the answers, but I think it's important that council's aware, especially because we were going to renovate it to move people into there.
Yeah, so thank you for the question, through the chair. So currently right now we went
I think your mic's off.
Is it on? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
So currently right now we went in to see what we would have to do bare bones to make it so we could have office space in there. So one of the things that we've undertook was that analysis on lead, because there was a firing range in there. So that showed that there was excessive lead in the like ceiling tiles and other areas in the building. So currently right now, obviously all other work has ceased until we remediate that issue. So currently right now, that is what is going on right there. And then once that is complete, then we can move into the next area where we'll be looking at just like cleaning things up. There's no major renovation plan for that. It's literally just to clean it up and put desks in.
Okay, so before any renovations or anything were to be contemplated, that'll definitely all be part of a future conversation here.
Yeah, currently there is no plan to renovate at all. It's just to put desks for staff.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have no further questions. I have a motion. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Gowing and a seconder. Councillor Nowak, okay. Look to e-scribe, folks.
Do we have comments?
I'm sorry, okay, before we call a question, Councillor Liggett's request just came up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm so supportive of this. We recently went through the same process at the City of Cambridge. We moved an entire department from rented facilities into City Hall. We made offices of 2 into 4 because the offices were too large. We've been able to accommodate everybody. It's been a great experience. We had great staff work through that process. And the atmosphere in City Hall has become very back to the old culture, back when you were Mayor, Councillor Craig, where everybody knew everybody and was happy to see each other every morning. It's become that collegial atmosphere in City Hall again, and it seems that I'm sure the odd one isn't happy to be back, but people have gotten used to it, and it's a great atmosphere to work in, I've got to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the comments. E-scribe, folks? Okay, it's carried, folks. Okay, moving on. Information, the council committee tracking list has been received for information. Other business, is there any other business as we're sitting here? Next meeting will be on June 2nd, 2026. And I'm looking for unanimous consent for the committee to adjourn. Pardon? We still need to move. Really? Okay. Moved by Chair Redmond, seconded by Councillor Harris. All those in favor? Okay. Work hard. Thank you, folks.